Is it working? I hope it's working. All right, I'm gonna do this video is gonna be a little bit more nerdy than usual. A lot of times I try to keep these game theory videos generally pretty objective, but there's definitely gonna be a little bit of a nerdy quality to this. So throw me a little bone for that, you know what I mean? So in my last video, this is going off the last video. So if you haven't watched the last video, you probably won't get it. But the last video, I was talking about, the balance in the chaos and how Jurassic Park, just like Jurassic Park, nature will find a way. Like, okay, Pikachu's not a dinosaur. I was thinking of that joke and I didn't commit to the joke. I didn't commit to the joke, but anyway, balance in the chaos, you know, nature will find a way, right? And in Super Turbo, nature did find a way with a lot of really potentially chaotic moves. With if you were to just look at how their hitboxes or hurt boxes, how invincibility they are, this kind of thing, how fast the game is, whatever. But a lot of goodwill still came from Street Fighter, right? And so I want to talk about the idea that I've talked about a lot that moves are too predetermined nowadays, and moves are too, pre-planned, whatever you want to call it, right? But I do think there are certain situations where moves should be pre-planned to a perhaps, you know what I mean, anal degree, let's say a nerdy degree, which again, this video is going to be a little bit more nerdy than maybe usual. I'm going to try to keep it generally pretty objective. But so, of course, every time you make a move, there is a purpose of it, right? But the problem became because they started giving moves too specific of a purpose, right? So let's get into ideas of moves that actually do need to be thought of a little bit more anally because they don't fit the game perhaps, right? So of course we got to use Ryu because a lot of the goodwill of fighting games came from Street Fighter Ryu. So let's talk about the Street Fighter 2 series, right? And although he didn't get it till Street Fighter Alpha, in Super Turbo Ryu they gave him the Rush Fierce and everything like that, and they started, throwing a bit of a different spin on the Fireball Dragon Punch character, right? He could kind of switch up his style for a little bit more offensive burst. They weakened him in some other areas and whatever. And then once they came to Street Fighter Alpha, they got rid of the Rush Fierce, and they gave him like the hop kick instead. And let's use the hop kick as an example as a move that is a conundrum of a move if we were to think about if we were just adding the hop kick to Super Turbo. So let's talk about how we would have added the hop kick to Super Turbo. And it would have been a move we would have had to like really again, this would be a move that you would actually have to pre-plan, okay? This is a move that would not the balance on the chaos wouldn't work because if you're to think about the way that old Street Fighter 2 worked with footsies and all this kind of stuff, and again, remember throws are instant, throws go really far. Let's think about what would the hop kick actually do in a game like Super Turbo, right? The hop kick, depending on how fast it is, like the advantage of it, etc., man, it might be really, really easily to be broken. Like, it goes from some people think even Ryu having the Rush Strong and Rush Fierce in Super Turbo is not good for the character, right? But I'm not going there. But the hop kick could have been a potentially real big problem in Super Turbo because of the way the game works with like footsies. Imagine if you could just hop kick over Dawson Slide and you're at the advantage or something like that, or if you could just like hop kick over Sagat low fireball, right? You know what I mean? You'd be hop kicking. Geef is traditionally one of Ryu's hard matchups, and imagine if you could just hop kick over Geef, when he's trying to like poke you and sweep and all this kind of stuff in the footsie game, right? The hop kick is definitely a conundrum of a move, right? But the hop kick is something I think they could have added to Ryu's playstyle and actually make it work, right? So again, this is pretty nerdy, but I'm just trying to like show that I'm not against moves being too pre-planned if they need to be, right? Every move has a purpose. Every move is obviously planned to do something to an extent. But some moves, if you were to put them in, would have to be pre-planned more heavily, right? So if we were to look at the hop kick, and again, remember, think about a Street Fighter 2 and how Street Fighter 2 works when you play it, right? So let's look at my amazing skills, right? How would you actually fix the hop kick, right? And I would tell you it'd actually be pretty easy to fix it in, right? I'm gonna show you like a genius way you could do it, right? Basically, remember, so like, let's say this red is gonna be like the hurt box or the hitbox in it, right? Basically, what you would do is, oops, sorry, what did I just do? Did I not have my pen here? Man, I've come prepared. You can tell how much I've done. You can tell how much I've prepared for this, right? So again, let's imagine Ryu's doing his little hop kick, right? You would actually just make the hitbox right here, right? Blah 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 blah. For the first frame or first couple frames, if the move lasts either 2 frames or 4 frames, however long you want to say, right? Then what you would do is, because of this is why this would work in Super Turbo, right? So this top thing, and it would not be visually deceptive, and I'm against visually deceptive moves. Moves that are too visually deceptive are not good, right? So we have this little dude, right? Well, he can be red too, who cares? So say this move, he's blocking. Look at his muscles. Don't get your shit out of here. His leg is broken, but whatever. So the hop kick, let's say these first frame or first 2 frames, whatever, would only hit the opponent standing, right? If we're to think about that, the hop kick, that the purpose of the move is to go over a low attack, right? So what you would do to fix, to be over analytical, over analyze this move to make sure it fits well in the game, you would purposely, and again, it's not visually deceptive because the move can still hit. The hurt box would only be at the top, right here. It would only be there for the time being, right? So that means if the opponent was actually stand blocking it, and let's say the first couple frames of the move on block, if it hits standing, it's block, it's going to be like the first frame, if it hit, it's -2, and then if it were to hit a frame after one, it's -1. So generally speaking, whatever the case, if the opponent stand blocks it, whatever the case like that, or if it hits a standing opponent, Ryu gets punished. Because throws are so fast in Super Turbo, and this is adding to balance in the chaos, right? Ryu's moving forward, he's doing a hop kick. You actually make the first couple frames or whatever of the hop kick, even if it's on hit, negative, right? It's not going to be visually deceptive because it still is hitting the character, but it would only hit the character if they're standing, if they're blocking, right? And the point of the move is not to hit a standing opponent in the first place, okay? So that means if Ryu is in these matchups against someone like a Sagat, or well, again, the Sagat thing is going a little bit forward, but say a character like Geef, you know what I mean? Traditionally a hard matchup. The hop kick might totally change the flow of that matchup if Ryu could just hop kick more easily. That was his new offensive flair to the character that they added instead of like a Rush Fierce or something like that, right? He's hop kicking over Geef's sweep, whatever poke he does. He's hopping over like, DJ's sweep. Who the fuck knows what we're gonna say, right? He's hopping over all these pokes in Super Turbo that are like so potentially powerful, right? Because of the way footsies work. Because you got to remember, in old school Street Fighter, it was not common for, say, Ryu to have a, Ryu. He's just doing his stand medium kick and it hits a crouching opponent, right? You know what I mean? The pokes didn't really work like that footsie wise for Shotos because it would have been too powerful for the character, right? It was not a norm for the characters back then because of how it worked, right? So anyway, the point is, you'd make the move purposely negative, even if it hits on block, standing, or even if it's opponent's stand. Maybe you're not even a hit, right? Then what you would do is, then the final 2 frames of the move, whatever the fuck you're gonna say, dude, right? Then the rest of the hitbox comes out, right? We're adding in the rest. Now we're coloring in the rest of the color, right? Man, geez, it's got a straight hitbox. Watch out for that. We need to fucking. There needs to be a balance patch, unfortunately. There's going to be a balance patch. Stop bitching about your goddamn balance patch every fucking goddamn time. Whatever. Anyway, so then what would happen? This version of the move, he's squatting. He's got a no. That's his squat. So then that would actually hit the opponent if they're ducking, right? And then you would just make the move, say, maybe it hits another couple frames. So if it's on that frame, on one of the frames, it's like 0, and if it would have missed another frame, it's like +1. Whatever the fuck you want to say it, right? But the point is, the hop kick is a great example of a conundrum of a move that if you would have added it, it could have really thrown off the balance, the chaos and the balance, because the move doesn't fit, no matter what way you think about the hop kick. You want a game to be progressive, and you want games to be progressive to an extent, but a character cannot progress too much, right? If Ryu has too much offensive mobility, you know what I mean? If his hop kick was too versatile in a game like Super Turbo, the hop kick doesn't actually fit, right? Do you get what I'm saying? Traditionally, if we think of Ryu as a character, this kind of move is a conundrum, right? But you could overanalyze the way moves work like you do nowadays and still add this sort of flair to Ryu to progress the character, right? And that would be a way that you could do it. And again, I'm just making this video to show how there is potential when it's needed to overanalyze moves to help progress a game, right? We're helping progress the idea of Ryu, adding some offensive flair, and the hurt box or the hitbox is only at the beginning. It's not going to be visually deceptive because the hitbox is only here for the time being. It's only at the top, right? So it only hits an opponent standing. And if it can only hit the opponent standing, he's always negative. And in a game with instant throws, so unless he did it from like very far away, which even then, let's say Geef would still be the reversal spinning pile driver him, right? Let's say that, right? No matter what, Ryu is punished for doing this move if the opponent blocks it standing, if he gets hit standing, whatever. But if the hop kick's purpose, what it's really used for, hitting the ducking opponent, going for the sweep, which is what you think of the move as, then the hurt box comes out here. Then he's at 0 or +1, so he's not automatically punished. You've added that offensive flair to Ryu. You've progressed the character without upsetting the balance. Does that make sense? Yeah, hopefully you guys watched my other video and got some of the shit I was talking about. Chaos, balance in the chaos and how things work, why Super Turbo worked, why it all fit together. Nature found a way, right? I could probably make a Dragon Ball Fighter Z about this because certainly Dragon Ball Fighter Z is a game that is too pre-planned, right? But Dragon Ball Fighter Z does have certain moves that should be anally observed and dissected because you can tell that they are a potential conundrum of the game, right? So I'm just putting this because I'm not against moves being pre-planned. Games need to progress. But a lot of the times when you progress a game, if we're going off the goodwill of Street Fighter, you have to remember there's a lot of fundamental ideas of what made fighting games popular, this character archetype, right? And you need to preserve these character archetypes, right? But when you progress the character, that is more so when you get into the idea of these potential conundrums. That's when things should actually be more anally observed for their potential problem that they could cause to the game if this was implemented. Because you still want the game to be progressive, but you want to preserve the goodwill of Street Fighter. You want to preserve the goodwill of the character archetype. We can't make Ryu have such a strong, poking game. That's not the character. We want to add offensive flair to the character, but there needs to be actual, negatives to doing this. This needs to have actual more thought to it. Does that make sense? Hopefully, these are moves that adding, balancing the chaos is potentially bad if you just let it go. Jurassic Park might not happen. There might not just be a frog that is going to have sex with itself and then a baby pops out. There's no frog coming out of Ryu's butthole in this. This is a problem if it's not looked at, right? That's what I'm getting at, right? So the hop kick is a very interesting move if you think about it from a deeper level of Street Fighter and how it could have worked in a game like Super Turbo, right? Hopefully you got what I was saying with that. The end.